All right, Senator Morgan, I recognize.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise this afternoon to make my contribution to the debate ahead of the Senate's affirmation of these casino gaming general regulations of 2025. I do so, Mr. President, against the backdrop of the proximity that I had to this whole exercise in a previous dispensation. I remember vividly when I served as technical advisor to the then finance minister, the considerable work that went into the casino gaming legislation, the Act of 2010, the consultations that we had to engage in. And as I listened to the submissions in the debate, certainly from the members opposite throughout the course of this morning into early afternoon, I'm mindful of a stark divergence, Mr. President. You see, there are some folk who will look at complex issues and throw their hands in the air in despair. And then those of us who tend to be a bit more studied and intentional and focused will look at the complex problems that present and devise approaches that are fit for purpose, well thought through, well considered, and of course, responsible. Because as this Honorable Senate and indeed the nation at large can appreciate, this issue concerning gambling as a whole, and even more so casino gaming, has long been a contentious one. Or certainly, a couple decades ago, was particularly contentious. And I want to start, Mr. President, by observing that one of the features of contemporary Jamaica is a degree of maturing of mind, maturing of attitude and outlook. This past Sunday, Mr. President, we saw throngs of jubilant revelers taking to the streets across Jamaica, some donning feathered gear and so on, as they participated in Jamaica Carnival for 2026. I am not a reveler myself, I'm not a carnival man, nor am I a casino guy. But those of us in the society who hold, like myself, to certain, conservative views and Judeo-Christian underpinnings, we, and certainly Seventh-day Adventist values and teachings, we do appreciate, Mr. President, that we live and exist in a democracy, nevertheless. So this is not like the folk in Tehran, where a theocracy obtains. And so, many of us have come to appreciate that there are things that are not our cup of tea, but they do have a place, and to the extent that there are folk who wish to engage and express themselves with respect to those activities, it is for government to devise protocols and avenues for that to happen and for that to be appropriately managed, Mr. President. And so, for the Christian folk this past Sunday, they would look at the activities as revelers took to the streets for carnival and conclude that that is not their cup of tea, and that is absolutely fine. And similarly, Mr. President, where casino gaming is concerned, there are those among us, certainly like myself, who don't like to lose. Yes? And so I don't even put myself in a position to lose. So much so, Mr. President, that we come to appreciate that gaming, though it is not our cup of tea, in a free and democratic society, there are persons who may elect so to do, and they should have an appropriate regime and framework within which that can take place. So that's the philosophical underpinnings and certainly backdrop against which I come to this conversation, Mr. President. Now, as you would have heard several speakers indicate throughout the course of this debate, the integrated resort development as a concept and a construct has the potential to add and enhance considerably Jamaica's tourism product, which is not an arbitrary construct. It is not a capricious observation. The truth of the matter is that there are other jurisdictions around the world that have distinguished themselves in the marketplace in relation to precisely this kind of operation. And I would have noted the observations contained in Senator Bernard's contribution to the debate earlier this morning. And I would like to just place on the table, Mr. President, that development, for all intents and purposes, has to be seen as a multifaceted undertaking and dynamic. Development manifests in many ways. You will have enterprise and activities that tend to be the province of the moneyed class. And then there are other activities that have considerably lower barriers to entry and indeed are engaged in by a cross-section of people. And that is absolutely fine in a fledgling free market, open economy and society like Jamaica. So the truth of the matter is that even in the context of an integrated resort development, as Senator Sinclair, Mr. President, indicated in his contribution to the debate, you find that stakeholders in a cross-section of sectors, from the taxi driver, the duty operator, to the tour operator, and of course, the entertainers, people who will go to a property to engage in entertainment like dance and cabaret singing, for example. You find that there is scope and avenues for a cross-section of people to participate. And this is not just about meager wages, because as Senator Sinclair so appropriately indicated in his contribution to the debate, much has been done, and I think Senator Bennett Cooper made the point as well, that where housing is concerned for tourism workers and players in the sector, there's a lot of value that has been added in that regard. So, Mr. President, the casino gaming facilities will add an element to Jamaica's tourism product. It will, of course, hold vistas for job creation and more gainful employment of our people. Because as you think about it, any such enterprise will see the requisite staffing being required and being engaged. I speak, for example, of stewards, hostesses, game attendants, and of tech support, because a number of the machines in a casino are underpinned by technology, and those may come in for repair and maintenance from time to time. So casino gaming within the context of an integrated resort development holds vistas vis-a-vis job creation and gainful employment of our people, Mr. President, and that must in no way be diminished or scoffed at, because as I said earlier, one of the things that we should recognize is that the people who engage at integrated resorts can be persons who are entrepreneurs. Like the singer. You can have a band, and you have your natural talent or any other offering, and you engage in the sector and you're able to maneuver. So there is a difference, Mr. President, between wages on the one hand, or of course, remuneration that Senator Bernard would have alluded to, and of course, profit on the other hand, to the extent that you're engaging in economic profit generating activity. So that's a very, very important consideration, Mr. President. The observations that emanated from the opposition senators really underscore the reality of Jamaica at present. It touches and concerns how you approach nation building, how you view the state, certainly the role of the state, and how you go about solving problems or addressing complex issues. And it is good in Jamaica's case, Mr. President, that entrusted to provide the leadership and the governance at this time is an administration that has the human, thought, and other resources that can provide the leadership that is required in 2026, Mr. President, as we solve Jamaica's problems. One of the things we heard emanating just now, or earlier, is a degree of policy incoherence. It is as though there is a desire to make a point and stand on that 1970s soapbox, if you may, as it relates to indicating how the small man will be locked out invariably out of the casino gaming sector. We heard similar views in the lower house with respect to the submissions. We heard similar views elsewhere in relation to a similar submission. However, the parliamentary opposition, as Senator Fitzhenley opined sort of earlier, has this way of speaking out of two sides of its mouth. Two sides of their mouth in the sense that, on the one hand, they are lamenting the prospects for maneuvering and take-up by the small man in the context of the integrated resort where casino gaming is concerned. Then in another breath, as we heard by way of Senator Scott Motley's exhortations and her submissions when she contributed to the debate, there is a concern for the downsides and the negatives of casino gaming. I make the fundamental point, Mr. President, that in the life and development of a nation, you have to be well considered and problem solving in terms of your orientation in securing the decisions and approaches and establishing the framework that will see positive impact to the life of the people you govern in that society. And that's the key point here. It cannot be, on the one hand, you are lamenting the low prospects as you define it for take-up in relation to integrated resorts. And then on the other hand, you're suggesting that, listen, this thing may become ubiquitous, it may become pervasive, and you may have persons interacting with it, and it has these downsides, these risks, essentially. So that is contradictory and, of course, a self-defeating argument. Mr. President, much has been made of the quote-unquote addictive nature of gaming. Like other activities with known downside risks, persons who are engaged in gaming or may engage in gaming, whether in the context of a casino or elsewhere, whether it is buying cash mat, buying the lottery, or of course playing the poker box at a bar up in Vineyard Town or wherever else. Those persons are encouraged to game responsibly. And that is one of the submissions that would have to be made in this debate. As a government, our view is that adult persons who elect to engage in this activity are encouraged to do so responsibly, which is why we have gone to great lengths, in partnership with the Commission, of course, to devise a regime for them so to do. And we are providing all the enabling features and provisions in relation to that particular outcome, because that's the desired outcome, responsible gaming. We can recall from childhood, Mr. President, whenever we went to a space and we would have seen a poker box, it used to always have that label, and they still do to this very day, for amusement only. So it is for entertainment purposes. And the truth of the matter is that it is reiterating essentially that your action of taking money out of pocket and playing a game of chance, just in the way we would do with a raffle or any other activity that involves chance, yes? You are essentially encouraged to do that and undertake that in a responsible way. So you cannot take your mortgage money, essentially, or you should not, and go to the casino with it or game with it. Gaming is essentially for entertainment purposes. And for where the argument about addiction is concerned, addiction can be cited in a number of other undesirable activities. For example, as a country, we have to face it. We have a sugar addiction in Jamaica, and which is why so many persons are essentially enslaved by junk food and fast food in general. We see it whenever we traverse up and down the country, and particular establishments that have lines going through the door in some instances. So where those behaviors are concerned, it is simply for those persons to be encouraged to do the appropriate thing and, of course, make sound decisions. So the Ministry of Health is very big on promoting and encouraging responsible health-seeking behavior and, of course, health-seeking practices, while at the same time, NGOs like RISE, for example, where addiction is concerned, they have developed particular capacity and they have good footprint in the country in terms of their underground engagement. And we commend them as a non-governmental organization for their work, Mr. President, in that regard. Mr. President, one of the things that quite sadly is practiced, and we should mitigate or militate against it being normalized, is the business of having children coming into contact with things that are not suitable or designed to interface with children. And this gaming thing is one of them. So there are persons in and around our communities across Jamaica who may be in the business of sending children to go and buy the drop-on or the cash pot. That should not be happening, Mr. President. There are folk who will be sending kids to buy alcoholic products or cigarettes, in some instances perhaps even weed. And that, Mr. President, I dare say, should not be happening. And so I would want to commend to the Commission and indeed other partners like RISE to raise the profile of this particular exhortation by having your public education and your public messaging designed to essentially promote desired behaviors and, of course, warn against undesirable behaviors, because we certainly would not want to see children involved in gaming or developing a disposition so to do at a point where it is not appropriate for them to do so. Certainly people beyond below age 18, gaming in any shape or form is not for that, for those persons, not for that segment of marketplace. Mr. President, it was Senator Morris who brought a motion to the Senate vis-a-vis care for our nation's elders and seniors. And it is a very important motion because even prior to the submissions raised, or the point raised by Senator Scott Motley earlier, vis-a-vis her own elderly mother, I noted that this particular demographic group, our seniors, persons who may, having regard to advancing in years, have diminished mental capacity, or essentially whose judgment may not be as optimal as it was in their adult years, or certainly their more youthful years. We have to focus attention on this segment of the society, Mr. President, where this gaming practice and undertaking is concerned. And I look forward ultimately to an Elderly Care and Protection Act, which may have situated in it provisions that the Senator Scott Motleys of this world may find particularly useful. Because in the casino gaming legislation, we're not necessarily going to be able to apply a bar on persons who feel that, their elderly parent or whomever, grandparent, you name it, should not be engaged in this activity, because we have to, as Senator Brown was saying sort of earlier, be mindful of the rights of those persons. So you can't trespass on their rights. However, I am delighted that in these regulations are the provisions for the proprietors of the establishment. There are certain obligations, set out for them to look out for and take note of errant or wayward patrons who may really and truly be in need of, particular care and may just need to cool off and discontinue gaming. So the considerations and provisions where the Elderly Care and Protection Act is concerned, I would want for consideration by the drafters the whole notion of the care and well-being of elders, certainly where such a practice as gaming is concerned. Because as we know, and as I said earlier, there is the business of impaired judgment, for want of a better expression, or even, quite frankly, diminished mental capacity, Mr. President. There is a particular Jamaica Information Service, JIS publication, that brings into sharp focus, Mr. President, the policy incoherence emanating from the parliamentary opposition. If you note what emanated from them in relation to this whole concept of integrated resort development, it is as though this thing is a negative, and of course the downsides outweigh the upsides. And that sentiment, or certainly that assertion, would diametrically conflict with not just this government's perspective and position, Mr. President, but also that of a previous, certainly the last PNP administration. By way of a JIS publication, it's available electronically, was published on the 22nd of April 2013, at which time, Mr. President, the PNP formed the government. One Floyd Morris sat in the chair you are now occupying, and one Lambert Brown sat on this very vaunted and envied side of the House. Yes? Very well. In the article here, it is captioned, "Government to begin accepting bids for casinos on June 1. It says here, Mr. President, and I'm quoting from the article as follows: the government will begin, and this is referring, of course, to the then PNP government, the government will begin accepting bids for the construction of integrated resorts as of June 1. The same integrated resorts that were framed by them in this debate as a boogeyman. bogeyman. Yes? It goes on further to say, Mr. President, Dr. Phillips, and this is the kicker, Dr. Phillips argued that approved integrated resort developments are the means by which the government proposes to substantially grow the hotel sector with accompanying casinos, entertainment, banqueting, and other facilities. Can you imagine that? This very same observation, with which the observations emanating from this side of the Senate throughout the course of this morning would have associated and aligned, basically conflict with what emanated from them earlier. And yet, they would cause us to believe that they are one PNP. Mr. President, the article here goes on to say, noted, and this is referring to Dr. Phillips, their immediate past president, Mr. President. He noted that the model which the government is using is based on the one introduced by Singapore, which is inclusive of hotels, restaurants, and shopping and convention space, with casinos, and has led to, and there's a quote here, Mr. President, phenomenal growth in tourism. Now the question is, how come? How come it is that we hold and subscribe to one set of views when we are situated on a particular side of the aisle, and then we hold and subscribe to the diametric opposite view when we are on the other side of the aisle, Mr. President? There's a word for it, Mr. President. It's flip-flopping, absolute flip-flopping, and absolute contradiction. And you wonder what, Mr. President, can go so. Finally, I mean, hypocrisy is the clear description for what I just meant, Mr. President. Mr. President, it is good that on this side, neither for amusement nor entertainment is this administration engaged in gambling in our capacity as an administrator of the affairs of the people of Jamaica. Others may have done so, because we recall not so long ago, and the discussion came up recently as well, that in an attempt to rationalize and, of course, sell additional taxes to the people of Jamaica, there are persons who would have indicated that the special consumption tax on fuel that is being levied will be utilized to secure a hedge. That, as history shows, Mr. President, was literally a bad move insofar as the hedge was taken out at a point when, Mr. President, the indicators and the direction of movement in oil prices was very, very clear. They bought the hedge at a high price when all the indications were for oil prices to plummet, as they did, Mr. President, as they did. And for those persons who are seeking, to suggest in this dispensation that their hedging solution, the hedging solution of the then PNP government, was a good approach, we would want to remind them that what government had to do.
Of order, but what is the relevance now of the hedge?
But, sorry.
Gambling.
Senator Scott Matley, Senator, you said it's not a point of order, and you have spoken already, Senator Scott Matley.
I withdraw it completely.
Thank you.
So, I understand now.
So, Senator Scott Matley, thank you. All right, continue for me, please.
Mr. President, just to be absolutely clear, the point I'm making, indeed, the point I'm making is that the then PNP government gambled with the affairs of the people of Jamaica, and we are not in that business, Mr. President. No gambling. And that is why We have used the resources gleaned from Jamaica's taxes to shore up Jamaica's resilience by way of disaster risk financing, Mr. President, with one of the solutions where that is concerned being the National Natural Disaster Reserve Fund. So when they, sitting opposite, ask, what are we doing about oil prices and what did we do with the revenues? We secured Jamaica's resilience and position to recover quickly from natural disasters by way of our investments in disaster financing, Mr. President. So with those brief remarks, I wish to support the regulations before us and ensure that they are ultimately affirmed as we are called upon to do this afternoon, Mr. President. May it please you.